The tricksters of world mythology. Every culture has its gods of order, kings of the sky, and keepers of justice. But standing in the shadows, or sometimes right in the middle of the chaos, are figures who thrive on mischief. These are the tricksters. They break rules, bend laws, and upend the plans of gods and men alike. They are not villains, though they often bring suffering. Nor are they heroes, though they sometimes deliver wisdom. Instead, they exist in the in-between, divine chaos embodied. Trickster gods appear in every mythology, from the Norse Loki to the West African Anansi, from the Native American Coyote to the Chinese Monkey King. They are universal archetypes, proof that humanity has always wrestled with the paradox of chaos and order. They are disruptors of the system, pranksters of the divine stage, and sometimes even creators in disguise. Why do cultures create tricksters? Perhaps because chaos itself cannot be ignored. Life is unpredictable. Crops fail, storms strike, rulers fall, and the world turns upside down. The trickster reflects this reality, reminding us that no matter how carefully order is constructed, disorder will always find a way in. And often, it is through the trickster's pranks that humanity receives gifts: fire, stories, knowledge, or change. In this documentary, we will explore 12 of the greatest tricksters in world mythology. Each one represents a different culture's answer to the same question: what happens when the rules are broken? From Loki's cunning betrayals in Norse sagas to Hermes' childhood of theft in Greece, from the laughter of the spider Anansi to the shape-shifting foxes of Japan, we'll unravel their tales, their symbolism, and their place in the divine pantheon. This is not a story of order and structure, like the Olympian gods of Greece or the sky kings of civilization. This is a story of disruption, unpredictability, and cunning. A story of beings who laugh in the face of power, who twist destiny itself, and who leave chaos in their wake. Welcome to the tricksters of world mythology. Hermes, the cunning messenger of Olympus. In the grand pantheon of the Greek gods, none embodies speed, wit, and mischief quite like Hermes. Born of Zeus and the mountain nymph Maia, Hermes entered the world not as an ordinary infant, but as a force of cleverness and invention. By the end of his very first day of life, the newborn god had already stolen a herd of cattle, crafted the first lyre, and lied so convincingly to Zeus that even the king of the gods couldn't stay angry. Hermes is the trickster archetype perfected within Greek mythology. Quick of mind, quick of tongue, and always a step ahead. He is the patron of travelers, merchants, and thieves, but also of storytellers, heralds, and diplomats. Where other gods embody raw power, Hermes rules through intellect, speed, and persuasion. His winged sandals carry him between the mortal world, Olympus, and even the underworld, earning him the title Psychopomp, the guide of souls. Trickery, for Hermes, is not simply about deception. It is about movement, change, and clever solutions. In the famous story of Apollo's cattle, Hermes not only stole the animals, but cleverly reversed their hoofprints to confuse pursuers. When Apollo confronted him, Hermes played the role of the innocent babe, swaddled in his cradle, feigning ignorance with wide eyes. The audacity amused Zeus so much that instead of punishment, Hermes was granted a place on Olympus. From then on, Hermes became the god's official messenger, a role only his speed and cunning could fulfill. Hermes also represents the gray spaces of morality. Unlike Zeus or Hera, he rarely deals in absolutes. He is not wholly good, nor is he malicious. Instead, he thrives in ambiguity, the god of crossroads, boundaries, and transitions. To travelers, he offered protection. to merchants, profit, to thieves, cunning. In every act, Hermes demonstrates that cleverness and adaptability are as powerful as brute strength. When Ares, the god of war, was trapped in a bronze jar by two giants, it was Hermes who discovered him and set him free. Despite his mischief, Hermes often played savior to his fellow Olympians. Beyond trickery, Hermes is also a culture bringer. He is credited with inventing the lyre, measures of time, weights, and even certain forms of writing. His trickster energy is not just destructive, but creative, showing that mischief and innovation often go hand in hand. Even in death, Hermes' role is unique. As psychopomp, he gently escorts souls into the afterlife, not judging, not condemning, simply guiding. This duality makes him one of the most complex figures in Greek mythology, both mischievous thief and compassionate guide, prankster and protector. When Zeus ordered the creation of Pandora, the first woman, each god gave her a gift. Hermes gave her a shameless mind and a deceitful nature, equipping her with cunning. Later, Pandora would open her infamous jar, unleashing suffering into the world. Hermes injects chaos into creation, but subtly through gifts of cleverness. Hermes' trickster nature reveals a truth about the human experience, that cleverness can shape destiny as surely as strength, and that rules can be bent or broken in pursuit of survival and progress. In his winged sandals, we see the eternal dance between order and chaos, played out with charm, speed, and a mischievous grin. Kitsune, the shape-shifting fox of Japan. In the rich landscape of Japanese folklore, few figures are as captivating or as mysterious as the Kitsune, the fox spirit. Unlike a single trickster god or hero, the Kitsune exists as a category of beings, part of the supernatural world known as the yokai. For centuries, these cunning foxes have stood at the intersection of reverence and fear, embodying intelligence, magic, and mischief. The word Kitsune itself simply means fox, but in mythology, these are no ordinary animals. They are said to live for hundreds of years, growing in wisdom and power with age. As they mature, they gain tails, up to 9 in total. A 9-tailed fox, or Kyubi no Kitsune, is the most powerful of all, capable of bending reality itself. Their defining ability is shape-shifting. Often, Kitsune take on the form of beautiful women, sometimes seducing men, other times deceiving them for sport. A hungry fox once disguised itself as a monk to beg for rice. The villagers, believing him holy, offered food. Later they discovered the trick, but instead of punishing the fox, they laughed and admired its cleverness. And from then on, foxes were given offerings at shrines to Inari, the rice deity, a playful tale showing how trickery led to ritual and reverence. But not all Kitsune are the same. In folklore, they are divided broadly into 2 categories. The Zenko, benevolent foxes associated with the rice deity Inari, and the Yako, mischievous or even malicious foxes who delight in trickery. One of the most famous Kitsune legends tells of Tamamo no Mei, a dazzling courtesan in the imperial court. She was intelligent, beautiful, and charming, but her true form was a 9-tailed fox. She brought illness to the emperor, and when her disguise was uncovered, she fled and terrorized the land until she was slain. Zenko are protectors, bringing prosperity and acting as messengers of the gods. Yako, meanwhile, embody the chaotic, prankster spirit of the trickster archetype, creating illusions, leading travelers astray, and possessing humans for amusement. Stories of Kitsune are as varied as the villages and eras that told them. In some tales, a fox spirit disguises itself as a loyal wife. only for her true identity to be revealed years later. In the myth, a samurai once rescued a fox from hunters. Later, a beautiful woman appeared at his home, becoming his wife. They had a son, Abe no Saimei, who grew up to be a legendary sorcerer. One day, the child saw his mother's true tale. Realizing her disguise was broken, she revealed she was the fox he once saved and vanished into the forest, leaving behind a poem of farewell. Here, the Kitsune is not a villain, but a loving companion, a trickster who gave birth to one of Japan's greatest mystics. In other stories, a man's downfall comes from his obsession with a fox in human form. These stories reflect both admiration and unease. Kitsune are admired for their intelligence and beauty, but feared for their unpredictability and power. One of the most striking elements of Kitsune lore is their dual nature. They can be protectors or deceivers, teachers or tempters. This mirrors the way foxes were viewed in real life: clever, resourceful, and difficult to control. In Shinto shrines dedicated to Inari, fox statues are common, their mouths often holding keys or scrolls, symbols of wisdom and the protection of grain. Yet in rural folktales, they are also the cause of strange illnesses, possessions, and unexplained misfortunes. Perhaps the most enduring aspect of the Kitsune myth is its lesson about perception. If a Kitsune can disguise itself so well that no one can tell fox from human, then how much of the world we see can be trusted? The fox spirit asks us to question appearances, to remember that beneath the surface of beauty or trust, there may be deception, or perhaps something even greater. Kitsune endure in Japanese culture because they embody the balance between order and chaos, loyalty and betrayal, blessing and curse. Like all tricksters, they are not easily confined to good or evil. Instead, they remind us that intelligence and cunning are double-edged blades, capable of creating wonder, but just as capable of undoing us. Raven, the bringer of light. Across the vast coastal landscapes of the Pacific Northwest, among the Tlingit, Haida, and other indigenous peoples, one figure dominates the stories: Raven. Part trickster, part creator, part thief. Raven is not easily defined. He is selfish yet generous, foolish yet wise, destructive yet creative. Like the shifting shadows of his wings, Raven embodies contradiction itself. One of Raven's most famous roles is as the bringer of light. In the beginning, the world was dark, hidden beneath shadows and chaos. Light existed, but it was hoarded away by a powerful being, often described as an old man or a chief, who kept it locked inside a box. Raven, curious and unwilling to let such power remain hidden, devised a trick. He transformed himself into a pine needle and floated into the water that the man's daughter drank. In time, she gave birth to Raven in human form. As the child of the household, Raven gained access to the sacred box of light. One day, he seized it, transformed back into his true form, and soared across the sky, releasing light into the world. From that day forward, humanity had the gift of the sun, moon, and stars, all thanks to a trick. In some stories, all the water was kept in a chief's magical spring. Raven, thirsty and mischievous, tricked the chief's daughter into fetching water. He transformed into a pine needle again, slipped into her cup, and was drunk. Inside her, he transformed back, startling her so she spilled the water, creating rivers and streams. Raven's selfishness accidentally benefited all people. But Raven is not a purely benevolent figure. In other tales, he is greedy, gluttonous, and reckless. He steals, cheats, and lies, often for no greater reason than to satisfy his own hunger. His antics sometimes lead to disaster, floods, accidents, or conflicts between animals and humans. Yet, even when his actions are selfish, the outcomes often benefit the world. In one tale, a greedy raven discovered a village that hoarded salmon. He tricked them by disguising himself, distracting the villagers, and releasing the fish into the rivers, making them available for everyone. A selfish act turns into a gift for all. In this sense, raven represents the unpredictable nature of creation. Progress often comes through chaos. Raven is also a shapeshifter, able to move between forms at will. Sometimes he is a great black bird with gleaming feathers, sometimes a man in human shape, and sometimes something in between. His shifting identity allows him to slip between worlds, sky, sea, earth, and spirit, making him a bridge between the human and the divine. Not all his tricks worked. In many stories, Raven tries to hoard food for himself. Once he stole oil or salmon and gorged until he grew too fat to fly, embarrassing himself. These failures remind listeners that greed leads to humiliation. To the people of the Pacific Northwest, Raven is more than a mischievous bird. He is a cultural teacher. His stories explain how things came to be, why the tides rise and fall, why the crow is black, why the world has fire and fresh water. Through trickery and boldness, he reshapes the universe again and again, often at great personal cost, but always pushing creation forward. In Raven, we see the essence of the trickster, a being who disrupts, deceives, and destroys, yet whose mischief is also the engine of growth. Without Raven's theft, there would be no light. Without his hunger and greed, there would be no fish, fire, no tides, no balance. He is selfish and sacred, chaotic and necessary. Raven is a reminder that the greatest gifts may come from the most unlikely hands, and that creation itself is born not from perfection, but from trickery, defiance, and daring. Loki, the Norse god of mischief. In the frozen world of the Norse sagas, gods like Odin and Thor embody wisdom, strength, and protection. But standing beside them, never fully trusted, yet never entirely cast out, is Loki, the god of mischief, lies, and trickery. Loki's role in Norse mythology is paradoxical. He is not a god of war, nor of harvest, nor of law. Instead, he thrives in chaos. He is a shapeshifter, a schemer, and often a deceiver. He is not even entirely divine. Born of a giant father and a mysterious mother, Loki is an outsider who forced his way into Asgard, the realm of the gods. His stories are many, and nearly all of them involve cunning schemes. In one tale, he helps the gods acquire their most powerful treasures, including Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, but only after endangering them with a reckless bargain. In one story about Loki, Balder, the shining and beloved god, was plagued by dreams of death. His mother Frigg sought oaths from all things in the world not to harm him. All agreed, except for a small plant she deemed harmless, mistletoe. The gods made sport of throwing weapons at Balder, which all bounced off harmlessly. But Loki, always watching, crafted a dart of mistletoe. He handed it to Balder's blind brother Hermes and guided his hand. The dart pierced Balder's heart, killing him. This single act broke the harmony of Asgard and set in motion the events of Ragnarök. Unlike the tales where Loki aids the gods, here he destroys what they love most, revealing the darker side of his chaos. Loki is also infamous for his shapeshifting. When the gods wanted a fortress to protect Asgard, a mysterious builder offered to construct it in one winter, but demanded Freya, the sun, and the moon as payment. The gods reluctantly agreed, hoping he would fail. But the builder worked with alarming speed, thanks to his powerful stallion, Svadilfari. The gods panicked, and all eyes turned to Loki. His solution: he transformed into a mare and lured the stallion away. Without his horse, the builder failed the contract. But Loki's scheme had consequences. He later gave birth to Sleipnir, the eight-legged horse, which became Odin's trusted steed. Here, Loki saves the gods, but only through trickery and at the cost of bending the natural order. Loki transforms into a fish, bird, even an old woman, whatever form serves his schemes. Yet beneath the tricks lies something darker. Loki is not simply a prankster. He is a figure of destruction, embodying the collapse of trust and the fragility of order. The children he fathers are symbols of this chaos. With the giantess Angerboda, Loki sires three monstrous beings: Fenrir, the wolf fated to devour Odin; Jormungandr, the world serpent destined to battle Thor; and Hel, the ruler of the underworld. These offspring are not random. They are embodiments of fate, doom, and death, unleashed by Loki's defiance of the natural order. And yet, Loki is not entirely despised. At times he is witty, even helpful. He outsmarts giants, rescues the gods from impossible situations, and entertains with his sharp tongue. But in the end, Loki's betrayals outweigh his gifts. After Baldur's death, the gods punish him in a scene as brutal as it is symbolic. Loki is bound in a cave, with a venomous serpent dripping poison onto his face. His wife Sigyn catches the venom in a bowl, but whenever she emptied it, drops struck Loki's skin, making him writhe in agony, and his screams shake the earth like earthquakes. This punishment would last until Ragnarök, when Loki would finally break free and lead the giants against the gods. Loki's legacy is that of the ultimate chaotic trickster. He is clever but cruel, humorous but destructive, necessary yet hated. Through him, the Norse myths remind us that chaos is not an enemy to be defeated once and for all. It is a force that will always return, hidden behind a grin and a clever lie. Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror. In the vast pantheon of the Aztec gods, few were as feared and revered as Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror. A master of chaos, deception, and destiny, he embodied the darker side of the trickster archetype. Unlike playful rogues such as Hermes or Raven, Tezcatlipoca was a cosmic strategist, weaving mischief with the weight of divine power. His name comes from the obsidian mirrors used by Aztec priests for divination. To gaze into such a mirror was to see truth and illusion twisted together, a perfect reflection of Tezcatlipoca's nature. He was the god of sorcery, conflict, fate, and change, a force that could not be ignored, only endured. One of his most famous tales is his rivalry with Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. The two gods were often cast as opposites. Quetzalcoatl, the bringer of order and civilization; Tezcatlipoca, the agent of disruption and temptation. Yet, their opposition was also a dance, for creation required both harmony and chaos. In one story, Quetzalcoatl once ruled the Toltec city of Tula as a wise and benevolent priest-king, guiding humanity with knowledge and restraint. But Tezcatlipoca had other plans. He disguised himself as an old man and tricked Quetzalcoatl into drinking pulque, fermented agave, an intoxicating brew, and led him into disgrace. Drunk and ashamed, Quetzalcoatl broke his vows of purity, slept with a priestess, sometimes his own sister. Shamed, Quetzalcoatl abandoned his city and fled the city in disgrace, leaving the people vulnerable, a reminder that even gods can fall to deception. Tezcatlipoca uses deception and temptation to unravel order. showing how even the noblest can fall. Tezcatlipoca was also central in the Aztec creation cycles known as the Five Suns. In some versions, he created the first world, but when it displeased him, he transformed into a jaguar and destroyed it. In another age, Tezcatlipoca became the sun, ruling the sky. But Quetzalcoatl knocked him down, casting him into the water. He battled with Quetzalcoatl over rulership of the sun, each toppling the other's creations. In rage, Tezcatlipoca transformed into a jaguar and devoured the giants who lived in that world. This rivalry between Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl defines many myths. The endless contest between the two shaped the cosmos, ensuring that destruction and renewal were inseparable. Unlike many tricksters, Tezcatlipoca was not merely mischievous, he was terrifying. He presided over war and sacrifice, reminding humanity that destiny was harsh and unpredictable. Yet he also granted power, wealth, and strength to those who earned his favor. He was both patron of kings and destroyer of empires, a god who elevated and ruined with equal ease. Visually, Tezcatlipoca was striking, often depicted with a black obsidian mirror replacing one of his feet, smoke curling from it like a restless spirit. He carried weapons of jaguar claws and obsidian blades, symbols of his fierce, untamed power. His presence was a constant reminder that life was precarious, balanced on the edge of his smoky reflection. To the Aztecs, Tezcatlipoca embodied the truth that the universe was not ruled by order alone. Deception, conflict, and downfall were necessary forces, as essential to creation as light or law. Without Tezcatlipoca, there would be no change, no growth, no cycle of renewal. He is the trickster as cosmic shadow, not a playful thief of fire or light, but a manipulator of fate itself. Through him, the Aztecs understood that reality is unstable, that truth is slippery, and that chaos is never far away. In the smoky depths of his mirror, one sees both the fragility of the world and the raw, shifting power that keeps it alive. Eshu, the messenger of the Yoruba. Among the pantheon of the Orishas in Yoruba tradition, there is one figure who embodies both chaos and communication, mischief and necessity, Eshu. To outsiders, he may appear as a deceiver or a spirit of confusion. But within Yoruba cosmology, Eshu is far more profound. He is the guardian of the crossroads, the master of language, and the essential messenger between humans and the divine. Without Eshu, no prayer can reach the heavens, and no blessing can descend to earth. Eshu is a figure of paradox. He is a trickster, yet he is indispensable. He creates disorder, yet that very disorder leads to clarity. His role in Yoruba mythology reveals a deep truth. Communication itself is unpredictable, layered and easily misunderstood, and Eshu presides over all of it. One of the most famous tales illustrates his nature. Eshu once wore a hat that was red on one side and black on the other. He walked between two farmers who each saw only one side of the hat. Later, when the farmers compared what they had seen, they fell into bitter argument, one swearing the hat was red, the other insisting it was black. Only when Eshu revealed the trick did they understand that both were right and wrong at the same time. This story, though simple, reflects his deeper role. Eshu is not merely a mischief maker, but the embodiment of perspective and duality, teaching that truth often depends on where one stands. Beyond tricks, Eshu serves as the messenger of the Orishas, carrying sacrifices and prayers to the higher powers, especially to Olodumare, the supreme god. Every ritual begins with an offering to Eshu, because without him, communication fails. Once, a farmer failed to honor Eshu properly before asking Orunmila, the Orisha of wisdom, for blessings. Offended, Eshu twisted the farmer's words, so instead of receiving good fortune, the man's life fell into chaos. When the farmer asked why, Orunmila explained, "No offering reaches the gods without Eshu." From then on, people always remembered to honor Eshu first in rituals. Eshu ensures balance, neglect him, and order turns to disorder. He is also the keeper of Asha, the spiritual energy that makes things happen. In this way, he is both gatekeeper and mediator, the one who ensures that divine and human worlds remain connected. Yet, Eshu is never tame. He is known for testing humans and gods alike, creating obstacles to reveal character, or stirring conflict to force growth. In this way, he resembles other tricksters like Hermes or Loki, but with a distinct role. Where others disrupt for mischief's sake, Eshu disrupts to teach. His chaos is purposeful, his games filled with meaning. In another tale, Eshu invented games of chance, such as dice and gambling. He would encourage humans to play, then delight in watching fortunes shift suddenly from wealth to poverty, from joy to sorrow. Yet, even in these games, there is wisdom. Eshu reminds mortals that fate is unpredictable and no one should grow arrogant in success. Eshu governs luck itself, blessing or cursing at whim, but always teaching humility. Eshu is also deeply tied to the crossroads, both literal and symbolic. The crossroads is the place of choice, of uncertainty, of possibility, and it is here that Eshu waits. One myth tells that when humans were first learning to travel, they were confused by the many paths branching in different directions. Eshu appeared, sometimes misleading travelers, sometimes guiding them correctly, but always forcing them to think, choose, and take responsibility for their journeys. He is the force that demands decisions, that pushes people toward destiny, often through confusion. To encounter Eshu is to confront ambiguity itself. Eshu embodies the uncertainty of human decisions, the trickster as the keeper. In the African diaspora, in traditions like Santeria, Candomblé, and Vodou, Eshu continues to thrive, sometimes syncretized with Christian saints like Saint Anthony or Saint Michael. His essence remains unchanged, a spirit of communication, a guardian of pathways, a trickster who cannot be ignored. Eshu reminds us that life is never a straight line. Every message can be twisted, every truth has two sides, and every choice leads to both opportunity and risk. To honor him is to acknowledge that the world is built not on certainty, but on dialogue, chance, and change. Sun Wukong, the Monkey King of China. From the mountains of China's legendary tales comes one of the most mischievous and beloved trickster figures in all of world mythology, Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. His story is immortalized in the 16th century classic Journey to the West, where he emerges not as a mere supporting character, but as the fiery spirit who often steals the stage. Sun Wukong is a being of contradictions, reckless yet wise, rebellious yet loyal, playful yet terrifyingly powerful. The Monkey King's origins are as unusual as his character. He was born from a magical stone atop the mountain of flowers and fruit, a stone that had absorbed the essence of heaven and earth. From his very first breath, Sun Wukong was extraordinary, clever, restless, and determined to be more than just another monkey. He quickly rose to lead his fellow primates, declaring himself their king, a bold first step toward greatness. But Wukong was never content with limits. Obsessed with immortality and strength, he studied under a Taoist master who taught him 72 transformations, allowing him to change form at will. He learned cloud somersaulting, which let him leap thousands of miles in a single bound, and mastered martial arts with impossible skill. Armed with these abilities, Wukong sought out a weapon worthy of his power at the Dragon King's palace under the sea and claimed the Ruyi Jingu Bang, a magical staff that could shrink to a needle or grow to pierce the sky at his command. He also stole armor and treasures before leaving triumphantly. With this weapon, he became nearly unstoppable. Yet power and mischief combined in dangerous ways. Wukong's rebellion against authority is legendary. He defied the laws of heaven, mocked the Jade Emperor, and even caused havoc in the celestial realms. The Jade Emperor, annoyed by Wukong's arrogance, invited him to heaven to keep him under control, giving him minor titles. But Sun Wukong realized they were mocking him. In rage, he declared himself great sage equal to heaven and fought heaven's armies. He defeated celestial generals and the armies of immortals single-handedly, devoured the peaches of immortality, drank the Jade Emperor's wine, and swallowed Laozi's elixirs, making himself virtually indestructible. Not even death could restrain him. He erased his name from the ledger of the underworld, making himself ageless. Finally, the gods begged the Buddha for help. Sun Wukong boasted he could leap beyond the Buddha's hand. He somersaulted thousands of miles, marked his victory with graffiti on a pillar, but it was actually the Buddha's finger. The Buddha pinned him under a mountain for 500 years, sealing him as punishment for his arrogance until he could learn humility. The trickster is out-tricked, showing even chaos has limits. But Wukong's tale did not end in captivity. Released by the monk Xuanzang, Tripitaka, his release came with purpose: to protect monk Xuanzang on his pilgrimage to India to retrieve sacred Buddhist texts. Sun Wukong became his disciple. Though mischievous and violent, he fought demons, monsters, and spirits with wit and ferocity, gradually learning discipline and compassion. Through this journey, Sun Wukong's wild spirit was tempered, though never entirely subdued. He remained playful, mischievous, and at times insubordinate, but through his adventures, he transformed from a reckless rebel into a guardian and enlightened disciple. Wukong thus evolved from rebellious trickster to enlightened protector, a rare arc among global tricksters. The Monkey King endures in Chinese culture as both a symbol of rebellion against unjust authority and a figure of comic wit. He represents the refusal to be bound by rules, the cleverness to outwit even gods, and the resilience to endure punishment, yet rise again stronger. His staff, his transformations, and his irrepressible spirit continue to inspire countless adaptations, from opera and literature to film and animation. At his core, Sun Wukong is the trickster as liberator, the mischievous monkey who dares to challenge heaven itself, and in doing so, teaches humanity the value of defiance, adaptability, and transformation. Coyote, the trickster of Native America. Across the vast lands of North America, among the peoples of the Plains, the Southwest, and the Pacific Northwest, there is one figure who appears again and again. He is cunning, foolish, selfish, generous, and sometimes terrifying. His name is Coyote, the ultimate trickster spirit of Native American mythology. In the beginning, people had no fire, but it was guarded by powerful beings, sometimes the fire beings, sometimes thunder. Coyote, always clever, tricked them. He snatched a burning brand and ran. As he was chased, he passed the flame from animal to animal, squirrel, frog, etc., until it was safely given to humans. Coyote's theft gave people warmth and cooking, a gift born of trickery. Coyote is a paradox. To some tribes, he is a culture hero, a being who shaped the world, brought fire to humanity, or taught people how to survive. To others, he is a chaotic force whose schemes and selfishness bring ruin not only to himself, but to those around him. His stories are as diverse as the peoples who told them, yet they all share one truth. Coyote embodies the unpredictable, untamable side of existence. In the myths of the Nez Perce and the Shoshone, Coyote often challenges monsters or evil spirits that threaten humanity. But unlike noble heroes, he doesn't always win through bravery or honor. He cheats, deceives, and manipulates, often stumbling his way into victory. In one tale, a huge monster swallowed all the people and animals alive. Coyote let himself be swallowed too. Inside the monster, he built a fire and cut open its heart, freeing everyone trapped within its belly. In another, he selfishly tries to hoard fire for himself, only to have his theft lead to fire's spread to humanity. Yet, Coyote is also the fool. Coyote wanted to see far, so he took out his eyes and threw them into the sky, telling them to look around and return. They did. Pleased, he repeated it, but when he threw them again, the eyes got stuck. Blind, he stumbled until other animals took pity and gave him new eyes, from a buffalo, or in some versions, from pine pitch. Trickery turned against himself, showing Coyote's foolish side. He is greedy, lustful, gluttonous, and often too clever for his own good. Coyote often tricks animals out of food, but his greed undoes him. He eats too much salmon and can't move. He hoards food until it rots. He brags of hunting prowess, but is humiliated by smaller creatures. Like Anansi and Raven, his failures are as instructive as his successes. In some southwestern stories, Coyote was responsible for bringing death into the world. When the first humans were created, they debated whether people should die and return again, or die permanently. Coyote, impatient, slammed the door shut on resurrection. In many tales, his arrogance blinds him. He might boast that he can never die, only to be killed, dismembered, or humiliated before springing back to life as if nothing happened. Death itself cannot hold Coyote, which makes him not only immortal, but symbolic of life's persistence, even through chaos and failure. The beauty of Coyote's myths lies in their dual purpose. They are entertaining, full of humor, absurdity, and trickery, but they also carry moral lessons. Coyote warns against pride, greed, and recklessness. At the same time, he reminds people that cunning and adaptability are vital for survival. Coyote's symbolism is layered. He is the trickster, yes, but also the mirror of humanity. He shows the flaws that live in everyone: selfishness, foolishness, desire, but also the resilience and cleverness that allow humans to thrive. He is the wild, unpredictable spirit of the natural world itself, sometimes a friend, sometimes an enemy, always a teacher. Even today, Coyote endures in native storytelling, as well as modern literature, film, and art. His spirit runs through the archetype of the trickster across cultures. He is a reminder that chaos is not the opposite of order, but a part of it. That wisdom sometimes comes dressed in foolishness, and that life, with all its unpredictability, cannot be neatly controlled. Coyote is the trickster who defies death, mocks authority, and teaches through contradiction. In his laughter, his failures, and his triumphs, we glimpse the human spirit itself, forever flawed, forever enduring. Set, the chaotic trickster of Egypt. In the pantheon of ancient Egypt, few gods provoke as much debate, fear, and fascination as Set. Known as the god of deserts, storms, and chaos, Set embodies the unpredictable and destructive forces of the natural world. Unlike many tricksters, who primarily deceive for amusement, Set's role is both more cosmic and more dangerous. He is a trickster whose schemes shake the very foundations of divine order. Set's earliest depictions show him as a protector of Ra, the sun god. Every night, when Ra sailed through the underworld, the great serpent Apep, Apophis, tried to devour the sun. Set stood at the prow of the solar bark, wielding a great spear to fend off the serpent. Here, Set was not villain but guardian. The force of storm and violence turned against an even greater chaos. Set reveals the paradox. Destruction can also be protection, depending on where it is aimed. In these myths, Set plays the necessary role of the disruptor who can fight chaos with chaos. But over time, his reputation darkened, especially after one of the most infamous betrayals in mythology, the murder of his brother, Osiris. Driven by jealousy and ambition, Set plotted to seize Egypt's throne. He invited Osiris to a banquet and presented him with a magnificent chest, promising it to whoever could fit inside. When Osiris lay down within it, Set and his followers slammed the lid shut, sealed it with lead, and cast it into the Nile. Osiris drowned, and Set seized the throne. But this crime set in motion the cycle of vengeance and resurrection that defined Egyptian myth, the battle between Set and Osiris's son, Horus, for control of the kingdom. The struggle between Set and Horus lasted for 80 years in mythic time. Set used every trick in the book: disguises, cunning, even shape-shifting into a hippopotamus to fight Horus in the Nile. But despite his schemes, Horus eventually triumphed, restoring balance. Horus was declared rightful king of Egypt, but Set was not destroyed. Instead, he was given dominion over deserts and chaos. Set is not eradicated, but contained, because chaos can never be eliminated, only balanced. From this point onward, Set became associated less with protection and more with betrayal, destruction, and foreign invasions. Yet, like all tricksters, Set cannot be neatly labeled as purely evil. In some regions, he was still worshipped as a necessary force, a god who stood at the edge of order, ensuring that the world did not grow stagnant. Chaos, after all, is as vital as harmony in Egyptian cosmology. Without storms, there is no renewal. Without opposition, there is no growth. Set represented the wild, uncontrollable side of life. Dangerous, yes, but also essential. Visually, Set is depicted with the mysterious Set animal, a creature unlike any known species, with squared ears, a curved snout, and a forked tail. This otherworldly image captures his nature perfectly, unnatural, ambiguous, and defying categorization. He is the outsider among gods, always disruptive, never entirely trusted. In the grand scheme of mythology, Set stands as a reminder that trickery and chaos are not always forces of destruction. Sometimes they are catalysts of change. His betrayal of Osiris may have plunged Egypt into mythic turmoil, but it also gave rise to the cycle of death and rebirth and the enduring story of justice through Horus. Set's legacy is one of contradiction, a god who both defended the sun and murdered his brother, who represented both protection and betrayal. Like all tricksters, his greatest power lies in his ambiguity, a force that cannot be tamed, but without which the balance of the cosmos could never hold. Maui, the trickster hero of Polynesia. Across the islands of Polynesia, one figure stands out as both a culture hero and a trickster: Maui. His tales stretch across vast oceans, from Hawaii to New Zealand, Tahiti to Samoa, each island shaping him in its own way. But in every version, Maui is clever, bold, and endlessly mischievous. He bends the rules of nature, defies the gods, and gifts humanity with the tools of survival, often by trickery. Maui's origins vary, but he is often described as a demigod, born of divine parentage but abandoned at birth, only to be rescued and raised by his family. From the start, he is an outsider, someone who doesn't quite fit the mold, a trait that will define his adventures. One of Maui's most famous exploits is the story of fishing up the islands. In many Polynesian traditions, Maui tricks his brothers into taking him on a fishing trip. Once at sea, his brothers refused to give him bait, so he struck his own nose, using his blood and a magical fish hook, often said to be made from the jawbone of his ancestor hook. He chanted powerful prayers and cast the line deep into the ocean. Something vast caught on. He hauled with all his strength, and up from the sea rose new land, islands. Where once there was only water, now there is land, the very foundation on which Polynesian peoples would live. His brothers, greedy, hacked at the fish, the land, too soon, leaving it jagged and uneven. That is why the islands are rough with mountains and valleys instead of smooth. But Maui is not just a creator, he is also a challenger of cosmic forces. In one tale, he lassos the sun. Angered that the days are too short for humans to finish their work, Maui weaves strong ropes and ensnares the sun as it rises. With his great strength and cunning, he forces the sun to slow its journey across the sky, giving longer daylight. It is a story that explains not only the rhythm of time, but also humanity's ability to shape the natural world through ingenuity. Yet, Maui's tricks are not always noble. Fire once belonged only to the underworld, guarded by the goddess of fire, Mahuika. Maui tricked her by asking for flame, then extinguishing it and returning again and again, until she grew suspicious. Enraged, she hurled her last spark into the trees, which is why humans can now kindle fire by rubbing wood together. Maui brought fire to humanity, but through deceit and risk. He is known for stealing fire from the underworld goddess Mahuika, deceiving his brothers, and manipulating those around him. These flaws make him deeply human, reflecting both the gift and danger of cleverness. Trickery, after all, can save or destroy. His most dramatic story, however, is one of failure. In New Zealand's Maori tradition, Maui seeks to conquer death itself. He attempts to crawl through the body of the goddess Hina Nui Te Po, the guardian of the underworld, in order to grant humanity immortality. But as he does so, a small bird laughs at the sight, waking the goddess. She crushes Maui, killing him instantly. Humanity is left mortal, and the great trickster meets an end as dramatic as his life. Maui's legacy, however, endures. He is remembered not just as a trickster, but as a bringer of knowledge and culture, one who gave humanity islands, fire, and time itself. In every tale, he represents the human spirit, daring, curious, and unwilling to accept limits. Maui reminds us that progress often comes from defiance. His tricks may anger the gods, but without them, the world would remain incomplete. He is the spark of innovation, reckless, flawed, but absolutely essential. Anansi, the spider trickster of West Africa. Across the rich oral traditions of West Africa, one name weaves its way through countless tales: Anansi the spider. Sometimes clever, sometimes foolish, always entertaining, Anansi is one of the most enduring trickster gods in world mythology. Originating with the Ashanti people of Ghana, Anansi is often portrayed as a small spider, but with the wit and cunning of a human being. His greatest weapon is not strength, nor magic, but intelligence, and the ability to turn situations to his advantage. The most famous of Anansi's tales centers on how he became the keeper of stories. In the beginning, all stories belonged to Nyame, the sky god. Anansi, desiring them for himself and for humanity, approached Nyame with an audacious proposal. He would capture 3 nearly impossible creatures: Onini the python, Osebo the leopard, and Moatia the hornets. Through a series of clever traps, tricks, and feigned ignorance, Anansi outwitted them all. He tricked the python into boasting of being longer than any bamboo. To prove it, the snake lay alongside the bamboo while Anansi tied him at intervals to measure. Once bound, Anansi carried him to Nyame, a clever twist that plays on pride and vanity, classic trickster psychology. He trapped the leopard in a pit by offering help and tying him down. He poured water over the hornets and told them to fly into a gourd for shelter from the rain. Impressed, Nyame granted him the title Keeper of All Stories, making Anansi a symbol of wisdom, imagination, and survival through cunning. But Anansi's cleverness often carries selfish motives. Many of his stories show him deceiving his family, his neighbors, or even other animals for personal gain, hoarding food, stealing treasure, or tricking others into labor. Anansi once discovered a magical rock. Whenever anyone said, "Isn't this a strange moss-covered rock?" they would fall unconscious. Anansi used it to trick animals. He led them to the rock, watched them collapse, then stole their food. But the little bush deer, or rabbit in some versions, spied on him and turned the trick back against him, reclaiming the food for everyone. In another story, Nyame once gave Anansi a pot filled with all wisdom. Greedy, Anansi decided to keep it for himself. He tied it around his neck and climbed a tree to hide it. But the pot kept bumping into his belly, slowing him down. His young son suggested he tie it to his back instead, an obvious solution Anansi hadn't thought of. Ashamed that even with all wisdom he could still be foolish, Anansi smashed the pot, and wisdom scattered across the world. Yet just as often, his schemes backfire, leaving him humiliated or punished. This duality is at the heart of his myth. Anansi is both a hero and a fool, teaching lessons through his victories and his failures. His influence spread far beyond West Africa. Through the transatlantic slave trade, stories of Anansi traveled to the Caribbean and the Americas, where he became a symbol of resistance and survival for enslaved Africans. In Jamaica, he evolved into Aunt Nancy or Brer Anansi, embodying the power of wit and cunning over brute force, a reminder that even in oppression, intelligence and storytelling can preserve culture and identity. In some Caribbean tales, Anansi tries to trick death itself. He hides, bargains, or swaps places with others, but eventually death catches him. These stories show that even Anansi's cunning has limits. The trickster can cheat animals, gods, and men, but not fate. Anansi's spider form is no accident. In many cultures, spiders symbolize patience, weaving, and interconnectedness. Anansi weaves not only webs, but also stories, binding communities through shared lessons and laughter. Each tale is a strand in a vast cultural web, reminding listeners that wisdom is not always found in strength, but in adaptability and cleverness. Today, Anansi remains alive in folklore, literature, and popular culture. From children's books to modern fantasy, his tales endure, a testament to the timeless appeal of the trickster. He is not a god of destruction, nor of doom, but of wit, creativity, and survival. Anansi is the reminder that sometimes the smallest creature, armed only with intelligence and nerve, can outwit the mighty. And perhaps more importantly, that stories themselves, once guarded by the gods, are the most powerful tool humanity can possess. Across the world's mythologies, from the frozen north of the Norse to the deserts of Egypt, the islands of Polynesia, the forests of West Africa, the plains of North America and beyond, the trickster walks among us. We have met 11 of them. What unites them? Not power, not virtue, not even consistency, but chaos. The trickster is the necessary chaos that cracks the walls of order. Sometimes that chaos destroys, as with Loki and Set. Sometimes it teaches, as with Eshu and Kitsune. Sometimes it creates, as with Maui, Raven, and Anansi. And sometimes, as with Sun Wukong, it even redeems. The trickster is the question mark in every culture's mythology, the voice asking, what if? The gods of war, law, and harvest stand for order. But the trickster is what happens when rules are broken, when boundaries are crossed, when laughter is heard at a funeral, or when wisdom hides inside a joke. And maybe that's why every culture has one. Because chaos is not just destruction, it is also possibility. The trickster reminds us that no order lasts forever, that no truth is without its shadow, and that the world itself was often built on a stolen gift. So when you hear a story of a god who cheats, lies, steals, and laughs, listen closely. They may be foolish, they may be cruel, but they may also be the reason we have light, or fire, or stories at all. The trickster is not simply a god of chaos. The trickster is the god of change.